Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Phoebe. I'm a Senior Customer Success Manager here at SightUp Pro. I hope you can all hear and see me all okay. But the webinar today is going to provide you with a basic understanding of SightUp Pro, so both navigating the dashboard and the mobile app, also customizing and scheduling your health and safety forms, building out different areas of the platform as well, such as your sites, your team, equipment, contractors, and resources. Now, most likely you've joined this webinar because you're new to SightUp Pro, and if so, welcome. Maybe your customer success manager has advised you to jump in to learn some initial tips and tricks, but it might also be that you need a refresher to SightUp Pro. So in any case, thank you so much for jumping on. These videos are saved in our video resource library, so if you do ever want to go back and access them again, we will also send you a recording of today's session, so you're very welcome to flick back and refer back to it. Amazing. So in terms of today's agenda, I can see we have a few more people jumping in, so you haven't missed out on anything quite yet. But in terms of today's agenda, we'll just run through a brief introduction of SightUp Pro. Then we're going to jump straight into a live demo. Then we'll have a Q&A session. You are able, like I mentioned, to ask questions as we go as well. So I'll show you where you can jump over to use that Q&A tool. And then we'll also show you our support and success resources. So if you could all please just take a moment very quickly. At the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you should have those 9 little dots, this icon here. And so you can click that icon to jump over to the Q&A section. And so this is where Luke will be monitoring all your questions. As I mentioned, feel free to ask questions as you go, and we'll look over them during our Q&A session at the end of the demo as well, just to make sure they're all answered. For anyone who's just jumping on, you haven't missed anything quite yet. We're just showing where you can jump in and ask questions as we're going in today's session. So feel free to just take a moment and we'll go ahead and jump into it a bit more. In terms of SightUp Pro, just a really, really quick overview here. There are 2 sides of the platform. So you have the admin console, which is the reporting end of things. It's also where you go in and you do all your admin setup. And then you have the mobile app, which is what the team will be engaging with while they're on site. I'm going to go ahead and jump into a live demo now. So we'll switch screens and we're going to have a look at both of these side by side, understanding how they interact with each other as well. Amazing. So what you'll be able to see on the left-hand side here is your admin console, and on the right you have your mobile view. Now feel free, if you'd like to follow along. For anyone who's just joined, I have mentioned as well that these sessions are recorded. So we will send you a recording of this and you can always go back in your own time and have a look. But please do ask questions in the chat as we go. So on the left-hand side, we have the admin console here. So again, this is where all your setup will be taking place. You'll be coming into this section to set up your health and safety forms, to set up your team and users, your sites. And then the team will be able to access everything in terms of completing their health and safety forms, checking in and out of different sites, and completing their tasks in the mobile view, which is the view we have here on the right-hand side. Now, if you're in your admin console and you'd like to have the same view that I'm looking at, you have a little mobile icon at the top right-hand side here that you're able to click into, and this will open your web on mobile. So this is really handy if you're doing most of your admin work, especially if you're testing things out, and it just saves you flicking back and forth from your mobile. Now, I will say some of our older plans don't have this option, so just reach out to us if you're not able to find it in your account. Now, when you first log into your admin console, you're going to land on the dashboard here. And the dashboard is essentially a visual reporting interface for your SightUp Pro account. We will jump into the report section towards the end of the session in a bit more detail. So this is where all your more detailed reporting takes place. But your dashboard is mostly visual. You do also have some panels that you can expand on here that we'll have a look at. And so you can filter your dashboard by your different sites if you'd like to. So this could be sites or jobs. And then you have a date range at the right-hand side here that you can select. And then you have this little cog icon. And this will allow you to move different areas of the dashboard up and down so you can arrange it in a way that suits you best. On the right-hand side here, we have our live activity stream, and this shows you all the live activity that's happening in your account. So you'll be able to see check-ins, check-outs, forms being completed, all of that good stuff. And then as we scroll through the section here, we'll be viewing a few different panels. So we have different bar charts, and we also have pie charts, and it pulls all the key information out of your account. So for example, here we have certificate and permits. We have our top 10 maintenance tasks. We also have forms completed by staff member or by type that we can view. And again, all these panels can be rearranged. You also have your corrective actions. And what you'll see is that some of these panels you can expand. And so if we jump up to the top here, our user engagement summary is always a great panel to have a look at in a bit more detail. And this is a score that the system gives each of your team members based on their engagement each month. So if you'd like to use this for benchmarking, or if you would like to use this just at a quick glance to see how everyone's going. You also, within your dashboard, have your corrective actions up at the top here. And so we'll talk a little bit about corrective actions during the session, or setting up tasks in the mobile. But this is where you're able, from the admin side, to come in and set a corrective action up for your team members on site to be receiving. Amazing. We'll head over to our form section first. And this is a really central area of the system. Now, when we open a new account, you'll see that we'll provide you with our Site App Pro library forms. And these are the forms that have the little orange Site App Pro logo next to them. And these forms are really designed as a starting point for you to use. You can also turn them off if they're not relevant. But you're able to go ahead and set up your own custom forms as well, of course. Now, if you are working with a customer success manager, we are very happy to help you with this. So if you do send us maybe a PDF or a Word version of your forms, we can actually jump into your account and help you build them out. But we are going to run through how to build out forms. And also, if you're starting any forms from scratch, we have an amazing AI form builder tool now as well that you can also make the most of. We can see a few other types of forms here. So we talked a little bit about our Site App Pro library forms. We can see forms without a logo next to them. And that just means that they're a custom form. So I've created them myself from scratch. And then we also have this form with the two little people. And so if you're working with a health and safety partner, or if you're sitting under a wider group, these are forms that have been provided by that group. Otherwise, going from left to right, we can see the name of the form. We can also see if the form is assigned to any user group. So user groups is a feature where you can assign a form to a group of users. You can also assign users to that group, and it helps you limit who has access to that form or who it's scheduled for. Then we can see, and if we double click on these columns up at the top here, it will just help filter our view a little bit more. So we have some forms that are scheduled for weekly, monthly, or daily. And then we also have some forms that require approvals or have workflows. And then you can click the pencil button to edit a form, duplicate it, or bin it. Now, on the mobile view, for these forms that are scheduled, what that means is that it will appear in your team's to-do list. And so this is where you can have forms scheduled for daily, weekly, or monthly. We'll jump into how to schedule them in a moment. You can also as well send a team reminders for completing their scheduled forms. Then all the rest of these forms, they're able to access via the form library. So if you're in your to-do list, you can click on the form library in this little button here. You can favorite any forms. So this is a view that's individual for the user. So they're able to favorite any forms they use on a regular basis. Or if we come back out onto the home screen, we have our plus button in the bottom right-hand side there as well that takes us directly to our library. So within our library, you'll probably want to have all your ad hoc library forms, anything that doesn't necessarily need to be scheduled. Now, when it comes to creating forms from scratch, I'm going to go ahead and click the add button up at the top here. And this opens our form builder view. So it will be the same view you'll see when you're editing a form. And this is essentially where you're able to set up your form name, your category. You have your settings in here as well. And then we're going to be building the form downwards within our form design section. Now, in terms of the form name and category, you can go ahead and fill this out. So say we're doing a toolbox talk form. Our category, we can go ahead and select whatever's most relevant. As you get into the flow of using your Site App Pro and also using your reporting side, it might be that you want to pick different categories for different forms. And then from here, we're able to open up our form settings. So this is where we can make a form available via the form library. In this case, my toolbox talk, I'm probably going to want to put it on a schedule if I do a toolbox talk weekly. But you also have a few other settings you can explore in here, such as making a form a quiz, having a form on repeat mode. So what that means is that when your team member completes the form, it'll prompt them to repeat the form if they do need to do it another time. And then you have form completion notifications, which is very handy. This is where you can pop your email in here and you can receive emails every time the form is completed. And then you also have user groups that you can link to this form. And you can set up user groups in your My Business section, and that's when they'll appear down the bottom here. Now, if you do have advanced settings as part of your package, this is where you'll be able to explore stuff like approvals on workflows. And so what that means is, for example, if you're doing an instant form, it might be that every time you have an incident, you'd also like an instant investigation to take place. And this is where you can set up a workflow and you can set follow-up forms to be completed. And that could be either by the submitter, the individual, or a user group. Now, if you would like a bit more information about these advanced settings, please do reach out to us and we can run through them. It can be a lot of information to run through initially. So at this point, I'm just going to touch on it. So those are our key settings there. And then underneath here, we're able to add questions. Select the answer type for these questions. So we have everything you can think of from, all your classic yes, no, and reasons to multiple choice, to add a picture, time, date, plain text. We also have answer types that link to different areas of Sign Up Pro. So stuff like your staff list. So for example, if we're doing a Toolbox Talk form, it might be that I want to select all staff present. And so in that case, a really good answer type for this would be our staff select, and I'm going to go multi-select from staff. And so that gives me a drop down of my staff list. And then, when the time comes and I'm filling in this form, I'll be able to select from that staff list. Then you can make a question required if you'd like to. You can duplicate it. And you also have a few other tools that help you clean up your form. And so to give you a bit of an example, let's open up our incident form in here. And so we can see that this incident form is built up of a few questions as we're scrolling down. We have a few yes, no's, and A's. We also have a multiple choice here. And these are the required questions. So any questions with the little red triangle next to them are the ones that we've marked as required. And so what that means is that this team member who's filling in this form isn't able to fully submit a form until they've completed all the required questions. They're only able to save it as a draft. If we also look at our induction form, for example, we have form sections in here. So this is a form section tool that you're able to use to group those questions underneath a section. You're also able to use what we call a conditional section. And so this is where you can either, depending on what the question is, either open up this section or skip over it. So say, for example, the question is, are you working at Heights today? And if my team member is working at Heights, so if they answer yes, I would like to open this section to ask them some additional questions. So say I want to ask them, an extra question here, and then I can close off that section by adding another section underneath. So a lot of tools available to you in terms of customizing a form. You also have ways in which you can add plain text into a form. So we can see our instruction block up at the top here. And so this is this button here, instruction text. We also have a collapsible information panel. And so this allows you to add text in bright yellow. Like I mentioned, we are here to help with your form building. So please do reach out to your customer success specialist or manager if you do need a hand. A really great new tool that we just launched is also our AI form builder, which you can see here. And so the AI form builder initially takes inspiration from your form name. So in this case, we've added Toolbox Talk. We can go ahead and ask it to suggest us some questions. And it will show you what legislation it's pulling through. So in this case, it's the Health and Safety Work Act 2015. The location, New Zealand. And you can also as well, if you'd like to, open up these sections and you can add a bit more information in here. So say, for example, I would like it to be weekly. I might want to build on the purpose of the toolbox talk a bit more. And you can see it's suggested some questions here for me. And I can click on these questions to bring them into the form. And so again, you can use these questions, you can rearrange them, maybe delete some of these old questions that you're not too sure about. But please do use this as inspiration and let us know your feedback. And last but not least, in the form settings, I'll just touch on this once more. This is where you're able to set up that completion schedule. So in this case, with our toolbox talk, we mentioned we want it for weekly. I might even, if I want to be a bit more specific, I could go daily and I could actually pick a day. So to say we do our toolbox talk every Monday, I can set a time. So it might be that it's at 9 a.m. every Monday. And I could also set an alarm for this if I'd like to. And so this is where you're able to set up a push notification to go to your team members to remind them to go ahead and complete the toolbox talk. Now, once you're done with this, you can publish the form. You have some quick analytics here. So these give you an idea of how quickly the team will be able to complete the form and how many questions you have in there. But you can also save a draft, save it as a draft if you're still working on your form. Amazing. A couple of forms that are important to mention, and this is because they're linked to two buttons on the mobile home screen, are the report incident buttons and the site induction buttons. And so the reason I mention these is this button here links to form number 458, and the induction button links to form number 5001. And these forms are hard linked to these buttons. So what that means is if you'd like to edit this induction form, you just have to do so directly in the form. So by clicking the pencil icon next to form 5001, we can see that same form builder has opened up, and we can edit the questions as we need to. We can rearrange them. But you're not necessarily able to link another form to these buttons. So again, that's form 5001 for the induction. And for the instance, it's form 458. Again, if you forget these, please don't worry about that. Just reach out to us. Amazing. Now, in terms of deleting forms, you can see with our custom forms, you can actually click the bin icon and delete them. With our library forms, you can't delete them. Now, what I usually recommend for everyone is instead of deleting them, please just click the pencil icon and then jump over into settings and turn a form off from the form library. And also checking at the same time, it's not on a completion schedule. So it's not scheduled for anyone to appear within their to-do list. And what that means is you can go ahead and save this form now that you've turned it off from the form library and removed it from any completion schedule. And it will actually remove it from this view here. And so you can see if I click show and use forms, I have a few forms that I've turned off. Again, you can't, hard delete any of our library forms, so you will have to hide them regardless. But I do recommend, especially as you're kind of getting started with Sign Up Pro and maybe getting a bit more confident, you can use the same strategy as well for the forms that you've customized, and then you won't be worried about losing them. We talked a little bit very quickly about user groups with forms, so you're able to assign forms to different groups of users. And so user groups you'll be able to find in your My Business section and within your settings. And user groups are fully customized, so you could say you want a group A here, you can go ahead and create group A. Obviously, you'll want to go ahead and click save. And then within your team and users, you're able to add team members to this user group. So we'll take Roger here as an example. We can see Roger's already part of a couple of user groups, but we could add him into another user group. And then we can add that form into the user group. So in the form settings, there we go, we can select our user groups. Again, we're going to be covering quite a bit at the moment. So please do refer back to the recording. We also have articles on these individual tools as well. So you're very welcome to kind of go back and maybe slow the setup down if you'd like to. Amazing. So that's it for forms. We're going to go ahead and jump into our sites next. And this is where you're able to rename the section if you'd like to. So if sites doesn't really capture what you're looking for, you could call this jobs, you could call this areas, zones, whatever works best for you. And so if you did want to rename the sites section, please come over to your My Business, in the settings in your My Business, you're able to rename your sites in here and your supplier settings or your suppliers and contractors. And so you're very welcome to go ahead and rename that section, whatever works best for your business. The workflow from the mobile is that when your team will log into SiteUp Pro on their mobile, they'll be able to select from their sites. Now, if they're on their phone, it will be the site that's closest to them that's at the top of this list, and the site that's furthest from them is at the bottom. It will also show them their distance from those different sites, and so they're able to select their site, go ahead and check into that location. From your end, reporting-wise, this captures their check-in time and check-in distance. And then from here, they can go over to, you can set up a custom hazard board for your different sites. And so they can view and acknowledge that. And then from that point onwards, they can go to their to-do list, they can go to their form library, report an incident, just go ahead and start their day-to-day tasks. If you do have quite a few job sites that you're working across, if we go ahead and click the plus button, you can see you have an option here to bulk upload your sites. So please do select that. We have a CSV template here that's very easy to fill in. The only required field when you're setting up sites is actually the name of that site. So you're able to just go ahead, fill in the name. Also, I do recommend adding in an address or any coordinates because it just helps with that geolocation service. Otherwise, if I was going to add a new site here, I can just go plus and add an individual site as well. We have the name there that we said is required. For sites, it's a custom category, so you can type in whatever you'd like to here. And then you have here your address. So whether it's an address, a location, or maybe if you're working within a development, you can also add the coordinates in here. If you set up a site close time, what that means for the team members that are checked into your site is that they'll actually receive a pop-up notification 15 minutes before the site close time to remember to check out. And then you can fill in any key details on site that they need to know in terms of contacts. You do have an option of adding a pin to a site if you would like to. So this, for example, if you have a head office site, you might not want everyone to have access to that site. Maybe you have specific resources saved under there. And then you also have the ability to put in your email address if you'd like to be emailed forms completed at a site. Then you have your health and safety information. And so when the team are accessing all this information from their mobile, they'll be able to jump into their sites tab or, jobs, and then they can expand this information and they can view all the information that you've added in for them. They can also, if you've set up a visitor register, this is where they'll be able to find the QR code if they do need to help anyone else check in. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But once you create a site, you'll see it pop down in this section here. You can click the pencil icon next to the site and you can see a few extra tabs coming up at the top here. And so we talked a little bit about the hazard board to begin with. So this is a digital hazard board feature that you can use. Now, on most sites, you have a physical hazard board. A digital hazard board is able to be viewed underneath the check-in and check-out button for the team. And we can see here I have 8 hazards to acknowledge under the Bush Road site. So I'll go ahead and click into the hazard board. I can get a really good idea of what the hazards are on site. And you can set this up from the back end. The team also have the ability of adding hazards from their mobile. And then I can go ahead and read and understand those hazards. From this side, what that means for you is that you can actually report on how many people and who has acknowledged those hazards. So we can see a number 1 here is popped up next to acknowledgements. And if I was to click on this, it would provide me with a list of the people's names. But you can also, I usually recommend setting up these hazards on this side. So you can add a new hazard. You can fill in the hazard details. And then once you've added a hazard across one of your sites, you can import the hazard across the rest of your sites. And so this is a really handy tool if you have, very common, consistent hazards across most of your sites. You can import them across your other sites and vice versa. So that's our hazard board. We can see here pinned forms as well. And you're able to pin usually up to 5 forms per site. And pinning a form makes it a collaborative group form. So it's not the same necessarily as favoriting a form, but what it does is you're able to pick a form and it could be a blank form. It could also be a form that's been filled in. And by pinning it, you're making it available at the bottom of the team's to-do list. So at the bottom of this section here, we can see a couple of examples of pin forms. And so this is really great for forms that the team are working on collaboratively, because essentially you could pin, in this example, we have a JSA in here, but you can pin a JSA from, today's date, maybe something that I've already filled in if I'm the foreman. And then the team will all be able to see the same version of the form. So it's really handy for forms that the team are working on collaboratively. That could be triple SPs, that could be swim forms, JSAs. It can also be used for registers. So stuff like a hazard register, substances register. And so you're able to pin those forms and make them collaborative and make them available for the team in that way. We also have our resources. So this is any site-specific resources you'd like uploaded. And so what that means is that the team will be able to, within the resources section, they can go over to the site, and this will show me the site-specific resources for my location. And then you have supplier and contractor access. So for any of you that have contractors as part of your package, this is where you'll be able to jump in and select what access different contractors have to different sites. And we'll touch on this a little bit more later on down the line. And then you also have your visitor register. And so this is where you're able to activate a QR code for your visitors or maybe even subcontractors to use to check in and check out of a site. This can also be set up as an iPad kiosk if you have an iPad, and you're able to, through that QR code process, they'll provide their key information. You can set up a form for them to do, and this can be a different form for different types of visitors. So for example, it could be public, subcontractors, even employees, and you can also set up different forms for first time and returning. So a really great feature to use if you are checking in and out different visitors to your sites. Now, as admin user roles, but also as managers and tablet managers, you're able to view from your mobile who is checked in and checked out of your different sites. So for example, if we select the Bush Road site, we can find our check-ins up at the top here, and this is where I can see myself is currently checked in, and I can also see any visitors. So this is anyone using the QR code. And so if you are on the go and you'd like to get an idea of where the team's at, you're able to jump into the section and have a look. We also have our visitor log, last but not least, and so this is where you'll be able to see all the details of those that are checking in and checking out using the QR code. Now, if you did want to set up forms for your different visitors, you're able to jump back over to forms and create a form under the category of visitor register, which is this one here. And so what you'll see when you create a form with the visitor register category is that it automatically gives you these two questions. Now, these won't actually appear in your form. They're just so the system saves that information. And then you're able to build out your questions. And then in order to link that form to the different audiences, we come over to your My Business, come to Visitor Register, and this is where you can link the form to different audiences. So you have public, subcontractors, employees, and you have first time and returning for each of these as well. You have the ability of overriding different sites if you'd like them to, different site categories, if you'd like them to have different forms, and you also have a custom acknowledgement here. So that's our sites. I'm going to go ahead and jump into our team and users next. And this is where you'll be able to add all your team members so that they have access to your Site App Pro account. And now when we're in this section, we can see a couple of different icons on the left-hand side here. Some people have this small kind of passport-looking icon, and the other people have the two people. And so when you click on the add button, you're able to add users which have the little passport. And what that means is that they can log into your Site App Pro, but you can also add team members. And this means that they can't log into Site App Pro, but you've just created a shell profile for them. And so the reason you might be using team members is because you want to kind of get everyone set up, maybe upload all their certificates and permits, and you don't quite want to give them login access. Or it might also be as well that you just want to have them saved in your system. They'll appear in stuff like your staff select, answer list dropdown, but they don't necessarily need a login. And so if you do want to add people as team members, when you're ready to activate them, you can click the pencil icon next to their account. You can go ahead and go add login. And this is where you'll be able to add their email, password, and then they'll get that reset password email. Now with your team, exactly the same as sites, you're able to bulk upload either one as well. So if you do have quite a few team members, I really recommend using this template here. It just makes things really, really easy when it comes to adding everyone in one go. The required fields are first, last name, role, and email. And when we look at the roles, let's go ahead and add a single user in here. It's these roles that we're looking at. So admin, field worker, tablet manager, those are your key roles. And so for everyone on the call, you'll likely be admin. And what that means is that you have access to both the admin console and the mobile. This is the highest level of access. If you do have any team members that also need access to the admin console, you can add them in as managers. And the only real difference between the two is that your manager is organization specific. So it means they're not part of any group account if you do have a group, but they also can't access stuff like your payment portal. Then your most senior person on site is your tablet manager. And so what that means is that they have the highest level of access in the mobile. So they can add new sites, add new team and users, and add new equipment from the mobile. They can also view everyone's completed forms. So when they're on site, they can come over to their saved form section. And this is where the team is able to jump back in to view the forms that they've completed. They're able to use this toggle here that shows them everyone's forms and not just their own. So maybe we'll check out of Bush Road and let's jump over into the bungalow renovation. And we'll come over to saved forms. And we can see in here, for example, I can view other forms that people have completed. So that's the tablet manager. Otherwise, most of your team members will sit under field workers, or if you do have contractors as part of your package, potentially contractors as well. And what that means is they have the basic level of access in the app. They're able to view and complete their own forms, resources, and view everything else that you've made available to them. With your team members, as they start using everything, you'll be able to see, so you can see their last login here, which is quite handy, but you can also click into their profile, and let's bring myself up here. Here we go. You can click into their profile and you can view their engagement. So how well they're engaging, and this is what pulls into the engagement score. You can also view their training history. And so this runs through any training forms that they've completed, training resources, playlists, and quizzes and corrective actions. So you can use the little print icon to export this information if you'd like to. And then you also have resources. So this is where you're able to jump in and add certificates and permits for individual team members. So this could be their first aid, it could be their working at heights, and you can jump in, you can upload the document, the name, select a location within your resources to save this, and you can also set an issue and an expiry date. And so this can all be tracked. And so if I just jump back out of this and go back over to my profile, I can see at the bottom of my profile, I have my user notifications, and this is where I can select to receive certificate expiries if I'd like to. So in-app or email, this will notify you 15 days before. So if you are managing stuff from an admin perspective, this is a good notification to have turned on. You also have other ones you can explore in here, and I recommend for most of your team members that tasks assigned to them is turned on. But you have blue notes, you also have corrective action status updates, and so you can really explore the section and see what's most relevant for each team member. Coming out of our team and users, I'm going to jump down into resources. And this is like a SharePoint drive or a Google Drive for your SiteUp Pro account. You're able to link resources into different forms, but you also want to come in here to save all the documents that your team need to access while they're on site. So if we are in our mobile and we jump down into our resources section, we can go to the Explore tab and we can see these different folders that are available to us. We can click through to them. And then we're able to see the different documents that the team has provided for us. And so you're able to upload these documents for your team members. You are also able to, if we jump into our safe work procedures on this end, and we have this wonderful example, but you are also able to assign them back to different areas. So you could potentially, if you need to bulk upload lots of certificates and permits for your team, you could bulk upload them in this section and then come back and assign them to the individual people. You can also assign them to a piece of equipment, a site, or a contractor as well, or supplier if you do need to. Within the resources section, you have a few other tabs. We're not going to jump into them in too much detail, but I do want to point out that you have your hazards and risks here and your action control measures. And so these are two lists that you can fully customize for your account. They pull through into your, you have two drop downs you can use for hazards and control measures within forms. So they're called hazards and risks select from and action control measures select from. So it's really handy to customize these lists. And they also pull through to descriptions of hazard boards descriptions. So they're great lists to customize. If you'd like to, they live in the resources section. And then otherwise, we also have playlists in here. And playlists is a way that you can create a folder of content that is scheduled to play on a cycle within a form. So a toolbox talk is a great example of this. You might have 10 weeks worth of topics for toolbox talks already planned out, and you'd like to add a playlist to your form. And what that means is we can see in this case, these files have a sequence 1, 2, and 3. And so every time I open the form again, it will play the next document within that sequence. I'm going to go ahead and jump into equipment next. And this is where you're able to jump in and upload your equipment. Again, like we've looked at within the other areas, you can also bulk upload equipment if you'd like to. And once you have equipment profiles like we can see in here, we can set up different tasks managing those pieces of equipment. And so that could be anything from certificate of fitness or warrant fitness expiry, renewing road user charges. It could also be maintenance. So just your regular maintenance cycles, maybe test and tagging. And your team are able to access all this information within their equipment section. So they can see the list. They can also see your different categories, and they can view pieces of equipment. They can view tasks that you have for them or uploaded resources under the piece of equipment. And so the first thing when you're looking at this section with a new account is you want to come over to your settings and you want to set up your custom categories. So you can go ahead and click the 3 little dots, go add a category, or you have these 2 buttons here as well. And you can fully customize your categories that you want for pieces of equipment. You can also add subcategories if you'd like to. So we can see in our vehicles, we have a utes and a van category. And once you've created a category, you're able to edit the properties of that category. And what that means is that it's the fields that are available to equipment you add into that category. So our vehicles is usually a great example of this, because with our vehicles, when we're adding new vehicles in, we probably want the year of manufacture. We usually want the license plate number as well. And we want to make the license plate potentially the primary ID. And so the primary ID for your team members on the mobile is actually the ID that they see underneath the name of the piece of equipment. And so we can see for the scissor lift here is actually the system ID that we've kept on. But for our ute, we have the primary ID as a license plate number. So small little changes that you can make that just make it easier for your team to navigate everything on their mobile. Then you have your technical details. In this case, this category is PPE, so we don't really need the odometer or hub odometer, but it might be that you want hours in use. You also have different compliance fields that you can pick from, so stuff like your warrant of fitness, last maintenance date, last maintenance value, and you can go ahead and select everything that's relevant for each of your different categories. From this point onwards, now that you've set up your settings, you can come over to your equipment list and you can start adding everything in. Now to add in a new piece of equipment, I'm just going to hit the plus button here. Depending on the category I select, you'll see those different property fields pop up that we've selected. So if we go ahead and select vehicle, we can see the year of manufacture popped up. We can also see the license plate number as the primary ID. And then I can start filling in all these different information. So make, model, name, you have a custom tagging system, you can upload a photo. You also have different equipment statuses. So if you do need to make a piece of equipment inactive or out of service or archive it, and then you can flick through these different properties. Let's go ahead and add a name here so we can keep moving forward. Here we go. And these are all the details, all the property fields that I selected. So for my vehicles, we can see here I have my warrant of fitness, my road user charge rate, registration expiry, stuff like that. Then you can go ahead and click save, and an equipment profile will be created. So let's pick maybe our ute here. And so we can see all the information for our ute. Again, your team members can see it on site as well. You are also able to, if you'd like to, assign a QR code to a piece of equipment. And so QR codes are a new feature that we've just released. And what you'll be able to see on your mobile is that you have a little scan QR code button just down the bottom here. And so you're able to order different QR codes. These can be large, small, they can be cable QR codes. And when the team member scans the QR code, it will actually open up that equipment profile for them. So it's a really great way, particularly for smaller equipment. I have a lot of use cases where, if you're looking at cables, they can be fairly similar. You're not sure which piece of equipment it is and you're doing test and tagging, but also for your different vehicles, plants, tools, it might be that you want a QR code that takes the team directly to this page here. Otherwise, once we've created our piece of equipment here, so our ute has been wonderfully done, we can come over to our task list and we can set up different tasks for pieces of equipment. So when you create a task within your task list, you'll be able to see that you can select a piece of equipment. So in this case, let's go back to our ute that we were having a look at. So let's pick our Hilux. And then we can select a task type. Now it could be maintenance. So these are just your regular maintenance cycles. It could also be maybe compliance. So this could be purchase more road user charges for this vehicle. But it could also be, if you'd like to, inspection, corrective action, or other. And so you're able to set up this task. You can assign it to an individual. So if I need to assign it to myself, but I could also assign it to multiple people if I would like to. And so we'll go ahead and assign this to both of us here. You could also assign it to user groups. So if you have a user group of your maintenance team, for example, then you can go ahead and add that in. And then I'm able to repeat it or base it off a reading. So in this case, with my road user charges, I probably want it based off the odometer reading. And say I need to purchase road user charges every 10,000 kilometers. I'd also like to make this task available 100 kilometers out from that reading, so that it's available for the team to give them a bit of a buffer to go ahead and purchase those road user charges. Otherwise, you have some additional notification settings in here. Now, the person that it's assigned to will receive a pop-up and it will appear in their to-do list regardless. But if you would like to be notified when the task is created, so that's when it moves from scheduled to do, or when it's completed, you can pop your email in here as well. So again, from the admin perspective, maybe you'd like to receive a notification when it's completed. Then last but not least, we have our supporting files or resources. So you are able to add a form to this task, add an image, add a document. It could be, if you're doing maintenance, you'd like a manual document. It could be that you also want a form filled in every time they're doing maintenance. So if we are doing maintenance, we'd probably have this as a maintenance task. In our schedule, it might be that we want to repeat it based off of the last maintenance date, but we could also have it based on a time frame. So it could be repeating based off of, let's go back to here, based off of a date, and say it's every 3 months on the 3rd day of the month. And so you're able to really customize the way you'd like tasks to be set up on a occurrence, who they need to be assigned to, and you can add these different resources for the team members to be able to access. Now, for the user from a mobile perspective, they will be able to see tasks within this section for different pieces of equipment. Otherwise, it will appear for them the same as corrective actions do within their to-do list. So this is an example of a corrective action we have here. And so this could also be an equipment task. They'll be able to see all the information that you've added in here for them up at the top. So your description, the name, the description could be, please go ahead and complete maintenance form A. And then they're able to add any supporting files or notes themselves. So say we go, this has been done. I might want to add a picture of, if this is a repair, for example, maybe I want to add a picture of that repair, and then I can update the status. And so I also have an option here to escalate the task if I'd wanted to. So if maybe this has come to me accidentally, or I'm not the best person to action it, I could send it to someone else. Otherwise, I can go ahead and update it and go completed. And so that will tick things off. You'll be able to track and manage everything. The only difference between these two views, so you have your maintenance versus your task list, is that your maintenance view will only show you maintenance tasks. And so if I go create a task in this view, it will only it won't allow me to pick any other task type. But if you go over to your task list and you go create new task, you can also create tasks that sit outside of maintenance. So that's our equipment section. If you would like a bit more information about maybe QR codes, please do reach out to us. Otherwise, let's go ahead and jump into suppliers and contractors. And if you have contractors as part of your package, this is where you'll be able to set up shell accounts for your contractors and suppliers. And then you can come in and link profiles to these accounts. And so we saw previously in the sites section that you could toggle which suppliers or contractors have access to each of your sites. And so the key functionality that we're looking at here is giving your suppliers or contractors or maybe subbies access to your Sign Up Pro account, but limiting their access so that they can only access specific job sites that you want them to be able to see. You can also use this section as a directory, so you can upload all their key information. You can also, if you would like to, save their certificates and permits, so we can see a pre-qualification in here. And you can also save any certificate details, so all of that good stuff, key contact details for your subbies as well. Otherwise, we have our My Business section, and this is where you're able to add your logo to your Sign Up Pro account. I really do recommend doing this. So you can select logo here. We can see our beautiful logo up at the top there. And what that also means on the reporting side of things is that any forms that you export from the platform will actually have your logo at the top left-hand side. So a really, really nice touch. Otherwise, we can see all our key contact details in here. We can jump over into the settings, and this is where we saw we could set up user groups. We could rename those different areas, so sites or suppliers. And you can also set stuff up like a new feature we have called completing forms from a previously completed form. And so what that means, if you enable this, is that for your team members in the form library, when they open a form, they can select to start it from a previously completed version of that form that they've done. And this could be a previously completed version under any other site as well. And so let's have a look in here and maybe go start from a completed form. It could be as well that I'd like to just look across all of my sites and in the last 30 days. And so what they're able to do is they can pick a form from this list. And it's really handy when it comes to forms that they're filling in a lot of information, so very text heavy, stuff like JSAs, triple SPs, and they can copy all that information over. Otherwise, you have a few other tabs that you can look at here in terms of your close dates, message logs, and visitor register that we discussed. And last but not least, we have our reporting section. And so this is where you're able to come in to export your forms. You can save a PDF version of your forms. You can email them, but you can also create form reports on your different forms. And so your first view here is your completed forms. And this is a chronological list of all your forms. We can see the dates in here. We can actually filter this by site, but we can also filter it by results. So it might be that I only want my Toolbox Talk forms. And then I'm able to click the eye icon, next to these forms, and I can view the information that's been filled in, and I can click the print icon to export this if I would like to. And so this is where we mentioned our logo coming into play, but we have all our form and the form questions. And so you're able to attach this. You can send it off to someone. If the team from their mobile do need to email any forms to anyone, they can come into their saved forms. They can find a form that they've previously done. So let's give ourselves a bit more of a date range here. And then they can click the three little dots and email this form to someone as well. So this is your form view. Again, you can explore the different filtering options. You can also see which forms have blue notes. They'll have a little blue note icon here on the right-hand side. And then we have form reports, which arguably I spend a lot of time in. So form reports is a really, really great feature. Let's go by the last 12 months, and it will allow you to create a report on all the forms that have been completed within that date range. So we can see we have a few here that have a 0 next to them. So that means they haven't been completed over the last 12 months. But we can see our personal pre-start has been completed 8 times. We can click on view report, and then this breaks down all the answers within the form for me. I can select how many columns I'd like visible, and I can download this data as a CSV file if I'd like to. Great stuff. So like I mentioned, our support email is available to everyone. We have a really, really great support team. They usually get back to you really quite fast. So any general questions or any specific questions about your account, please reach out to our support team. Most of you as well will likely have customer success managers that you can reach out to, or the wonderful Luke, who's been answering questions, also is part of most of our team and professional packs. So if you do have a contact, please reach out to them. Otherwise, our support email is a great place to go to, and they can always connect you with your CSM if you have one. Otherwise, if you are looking for a deeper dive, we do have our product training center. So that includes videos like today's session. It also includes other videos, so stuff like training the team, maybe looking at specific sections. So, for example, we did an equipment spotlight not too long ago. But otherwise as well, if I just jump back into here very, very quickly, you have, if you're clicking on your name, you have this support section, and this will take you to our resource center. A lot of really, really great articles in here that break down everything we've talked about. So for example, with road user charges here. Charges. You're able to see how you can actually set up these tasks, and it breaks down each of the steps for you. So a lot of kind of great content that you can use to support. Thank you so much for joining today. Please do reach out to us if you have any questions. Otherwise, really hope this was a valuable session.